Good evening, everybody. Faisal here, founder of Bits. Thanks for joining. Just gonna give it a few minutes for wait for a few other people to join. Welcome, Faisal here, the founder of Bits. We're just gonna give it another minute or so and wait for a few other people to join. Then we'll get started. Hi, Laura. Right, so I think we're just gonna get started right away. I hope everybody. Hi, good evening, Oliver. All right, good. It's getting heated up now. Let's get started. So, for anyone joining now, good evening. My name is Faisal, and I'm the founder of Bits. I am joined by the talented Gigi.
Hi, Ro.
Hi. So, yeah, the way that in case this is your first time doing an office hours with us, the way that we run these is it's just an open forum where you type in your questions into live chat and I'll go through them sequentially one by one. Before I start, actually, I just sort of a tip from our side. If you've been reading our emails, you would have gotten this tip already. But Experian has recently launched a product called Experian Boost. It is a completely free service that builds your credit. The way it works is, so for anyone joining now, good evening, David. For anyone joining now, I was just giving a brief update on Experian. So Experian has recently launched a product called Experian Boost. It's a completely free service that builds your credit score by up to 66 points. The way it works, very simple. Open the Experian app, you'll see a button called Boost. Press the button, Experian will ask you to connect your bank account, and once that's done, at the end of it, you'll see your score go up by usually 20, 30 points. The maximum is 66. Basically, what it does is, when you connect your bank accounts, Experian looks for any evidence of recurring payments. For example, council tax payments, energy bill payments, utility payments, and so on. And if you have these recurring payments, then you get a bit of a boost for it. You may be wondering, why would Experian do this? What's in it for them? For them, they want to enrich their data. The more data they have on you, the more they can sell you their products. And so it's that's the other side of the equation. Anyway, let's get started. So first question today is from Laura. Laura says, I've just finished an IVA. Will Bits be able to help me recover? Yes. You're done with the IVA. Congratulations. Bits can absolutely help you. I know we have your question, perhaps you're asking it because we have some guidance in the app about not using Bits when you have an IVA. Our guidance when we say don't use Bits if we have an IVA, that only applies if you've just entered into the IVA. If you're already out of it, it's absolutely fine. Oliver, you have a question, but I can't read the question. Do you want to type it out? Right. Yeah, so actually, while we're waiting, I did want to see, one of the two of the new kind of features that we're working on in Bits, which we've heard over and over again from you, are number one, enabling reporting to the other credit agencies. So that's a major project that's going on right now for both TransUnion and Equifax. Because you're here, I'm sort of taking you into confidence, but we haven't publicly announced this yet. It's still a work in progress. And then the second major project which we're embarking on now is actually letting you see your credit score in the app. Both of these are multi-month projects, but I'm here to tell you that I hear your feedback and we are working on them. Right. So the question from Oliver is, does it affect the same way owing £10,000 rather than 700? I've been told the amount doesn't make any difference. You can get a CCJ for 10,000, same as 700. It does make a difference. So I guess it depends on the context. Oliver, it sounds like you're saying, does the amount of a CCJ matter? I think there are two parts to that. The first part of it is just, does it matter in terms of what your liability is, how long it's going to take you to pay it back? Absolutely. The second part of it is, does it matter in terms of your credit score and how lenders are going to assess you? The only thing is, if you have a massive CCJ for 10,000, it's going to take you much longer to settle or pay that off. And a settled CCJ is much better for your score than an unsettled CCJ. The other thing I would say is, when you are applying for something like a mortgage, some mortgage lenders will have automatic decisioning. So they'll say, if you had a CCJ in the past 3 years and we want to approve you. But a lot of the decisioning, actually, when it comes to a CCJ, the automated decisioning, it does look at the amount of the CCJ. So a CCJ that's £200 in parking tickets will factor in very differently into a mortgage provider's calculations as compared to a CCJ, which is for a £10,000 credit card bill that you never paid. So it does matter. The size of the CCJ does matter. Great. For anyone who's just joined, again, good evening. I'm Faisal, the founder of Bits. And the way we're running this office hours is just type in your questions in the live chat and I'll get to them. Gigi, what's on our mind nowadays?
So I was actually going to talk about something that's happened with my score recently, because I think it's really easy to remember that your score will drop if you get a CCJ or you miss a payment, all these really negative things. But there are lots of other things that can cause your score to drop that you might not think of. So I recently moved house and I didn't really think anything of it, like why would that affect your credit score? And then I had this notification from Experian that said, your score's gone down, you should check what's happened. And it dropped by like 50 points. And then the next day I got another notification saying it dropped another 60. And I was just baffled because I just didn't understand. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't missed any payments. And then I realized it was because I updated my Experian account, but I hadn't updated my bank account, and I hadn't registered on the electoral register in my new address. So all these things that were positively affecting my score now aren't. So that's another thing to watch out for, I think, with your score. Obviously, I've now done these things, so it is fixable. And then next month, my score will go back up again, hopefully. But probably something worth bearing in mind. Your score can drop, not just if you miss a payment. There are other things as well.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Any more questions? Feel free to type them away in the live chat. This is actually our last office hours before for the end of the year. So, and there are not a lot of people right now, so unique opportunity to get a direct answer.
Maybe we could expand more on Laura's point about what else she can do to help with her RBA.
Yeah, that's a good question. So Laura says, I've recently got married. Congratulations. And we're saving for a house deposit to buy in the next year. Is there anything more that I can do to boost my score in this short time? Yeah, so there are, as a general rule, so I would actually start by saying that we can't give you specific guidance because that would put us in the territory of financial advice, which we're not regulated to give. But just as a general rule, the 3 best ways to build credit are mobile phone bills, energy bills, and credit card bills. These are all basically running finance lines, and they work quite well in building credit. Why do I single out these 3 types of credit versus say a loan? The reason I single out these three, which is mobile phone bills, energy bills, and credit card, is because these are very normal forms of credit. What I mean by normal is anyone who lives in this country is going to be using pretty much all of these, right? It doesn't matter whether you have a good credit history or a bad credit history. So, because I mean they're very normal, so having them on your file doesn't signal desperation or anything like that. That's one reason why I think these three are good. The other reason why I think it's good to have these three is just because in terms of the way that they are treated by lenders, the way that they factor into the algorithm, they do a much better job versus loans. So I would stick to these three. If you don't have them or you don't have the ability to get them right now, that's fine. Wait, try every few months. When you do try, don't do more than one or two applications at a time. So that would be my sort of general advice to anyone looking to build credit: is use a mobile contract, get a credit card which you have through Bits, and then get your name on the energy bills. Things that I would suggest not doing: definitely don't miss payments, don't accidentally end up with a CCJ because of parking tickets. And the last one, which is perhaps the most counterintuitive, do not actually take out loans to build credit. The problem with loans is, one, they actually don't work that well numerically. The score impact is minimal. But secondly, they send a bad signal. Now, especially if you've been in debt troubles in the past, if you've come out of an IVA, the last thing you want is to signal that you still need to borrow small amounts of cash. The thing is, basically, this might not be known to you, but when lenders look at your credit file, they actually can't see who you got a facility from. When they look at Bits, for example, they see it's a credit card / store card line. To them, it looks the same as if it was from Amex, which is good. However, if you take out a £200 credit building loan, they won't know that it's a credit builder, right? They'll just assume you needed £200. So that's why loans, I think, are actually not a good idea to build credit. And whether you're taking an iPhone on financing or like a proper credit building loan, it's basically the same thing. It's a small loan. So, what else can you do? It's the three things that I mentioned. And sorry, one more point, Laura, is actually when you're assuming you're going to be doing a joint mortgage, then whatever good things you're doing, equally your partner should be doing them as well, because both of your credit histories will count here. The next one is from David. So David says, sorry, just had two phones while you were live, so sorry if I'm asking answered questions. I like the sound of Experian Boost, but my bank is not supported, so I guess I'll wait. Huh, that's weird. Also, is there a way that paying your rent can be used to boost your credit score if your landlord will report it? There is actually. There's a company called, what is it called? I believe it is called Credit Ladder. Just Google it. If you just Google pay rent, build credit, you should see it. I think it's called Credit Ladder. So they do actually report your rent payments to Equifax and to Experian. That's a good idea, actually. And then David says, also I hear there's a way that, we covered that. Laura, the next question is from Laura. Laura says, would upgrading my Bits account help? I don't know what plan you're on now, Laura, but I think in your case, and this actually is generally true as well, being on higher plans is good. The more to a point, the higher your limit, the higher your repayments, monthly payments, the stronger the impact, the bigger the impact. But with that said, the single most important thing is actually how long you've had a credit account for. That, especially if you're trying to rebuild credit, you're trying to demonstrate that you've turned a new leaf, which is what you are. The most important thing is just stability and continuity. You doing something like the £12 plan for a year and a half is much, much better than doing the £40 plan for 3 months. You have to signal stability and continuity. It's the thing that's going to build your score up in the long term, and it's also the thing, that stability and continuity is the thing that's going to convince lenders that you are a responsible borrower. And by the way, this doesn't apply just to Bits, it applies to every single good credit account you have. Like a mobile contract, energy bill, try to keep it as long as you can. Yeah. Next question we have is from Michael. So Michael says, can you still build credit when you have CCJs, or are you stuck? For saving all of our credit files, when can we invest in your company? So, Michael, the first part of your question, which was, can you build credit when you have CCJs? You can. There's many ways to build credit. So you can, however, so with a CCJ, a CCJ can be in one of two states. It can be satisfied, which means you paid it off, or it could be unsatisfied, which means you got it, but you still haven't paid it, right? So if you have a CCJ, then the first thing you should try to do is actually satisfy or pay off that CCJ, because doing that alone, when you get a CCJ, your score will probably drop, I don't know, anywhere up to 200 points or more. When you pay it off, then it goes up. So if you have a CCJ and you haven't satisfied or paid it off, then the best use of your money is actually paying it off. That's the first thing I would say. So with that said, can you do stuff in parallel even if you have an unsatisfied CCJ? You can. The only thing I would say is, if it's been very recent, like it's been less than 6 months since you've gotten a CCJ, you're better off probably just waiting and letting things settle down. But the rule of thumb is, if you have a debt problem, whether it's unpaid CCJ or missed payments, anything else, if you have a debt problem, then solve the debt problem first and then do other things. The beauty of that is, when you solve your debt problem, you'll actually be building your credit in parallel as well. As far as investing in our company goes, maybe we did, some of you know this perhaps, but we did a crowdfunding round at the very start of our life in October 2018. I would like to do one again in the near future, perhaps over the summertime, we'll see. So if that does happen, then we will let you know. The next question we have is from Oliver. Oliver says, a friend told me that it's better to ignore the lenders, as if you pay them it's better to ignore the lenders, because if you pay them, the 6 years will begin from the last payment. If you're paying for 6 years, you will have to wait for another 6 years to clear your score. Yeah, I think, Oliver, you're referring to basically unsatisfied CCJs. I don't agree with that. I know it's tempting to say, okay, I'm just going to let this thing drop off my file. So it's very hard to give general advice. If you're right, if it's the case that, okay, the CCJ happened a year back, okay, so it's going to be on your file for more than 5 years, then, if it were me, I would pay it off, because I know that, like, unless I pay it off for the next 5 years, this thing is going to be hanging over my head, this dark cloud that I have a CCJ, I didn't pay it off, and lenders will penalize you for that. If it's the case that, it's been 5.5 years and now in like a few months it's going to drop off anyway, me personally, I probably would just not pay it off then, because it's going to be gone in 4 or 5 months anyway, right? That's me. I mean, I can't give like personalized financial advice, but that's how I would do it. It is circumstantial. I mean, as a general rule, it almost always helps you to pay off your debt. If paying off that debt actually puts you into significant personal hardship, then certainly you should consider your options, and that's where things like a DMP or IVA or trust deed come in. So it's really quite complicated, and I don't want to sort of make it seem simple, because it isn't. It really depends on, how much pain is it actually going to be to pay it off, and then where are you in the journey with the CCJ dropping off. Yeah. I also wanted to say, which is probably going to sound a little bit ironic, given that we as a company help people build credit. Your credit score is not the thing. I mean, it does matter. I think it's the best barometer of your credit health, but don't let it be like the single thing that guides your decisions. Look at what is affordable, right? Like, how much can you actually afford over the long term? What are you actually comfortable with versus what's going to put you into hardship? And this is not just about bits, it's about any financial decision relating to debt. So you have to put yourself first, like as an individual, right? What can I actually do realistically without affecting my mental health or my personal well-being, right? What can I actually do? That, I mean, to me, like intuitively, that's the single most important thing. And then yes, your credit health, your credit score and your credit report do matter. It matters to lenders, but it's also a great barometer of how you're doing. But never forget that like the ultimate person you have to take care of, the thing you have to take care of is you, not like some score. Sorry, I know it's an obvious point, but it's still perhaps worth stating. Great. So, any more questions?
I think following on from that, another thing people sort of get a bit concerned about is when your score with ClearScore is a completely different score from your experience score. Like one of them's 700, the other one's 200, and you're a bit like, what's going on here? And I don't know, with lenders, what would you say about them looking at different scores and whether it matters if one is much better than the other?
So now you can see we definitely do not plant questions, because that was actually a properly tough question. But I think that, so first of all, as I mentioned at the start, we are trying to get set up with the other credit agencies as well. So this discrepancy hopefully won't be something that continues, but it will always be the case. I mean, even in my case, for example, when I got a mortgage, my experience score was pretty high, but my Equifax score didn't reflect that. So so the first thing I would say is track everything. Track your experience score, track your Equifax score. As a general rule, if you're doing positive credit building things like paying off your debt, keeping your credit card balances low, opening up new good credit lines like mobile bill and energy bill if you don't have a lot. As a general rule, these should pretty much affect your score equally across all three. The next question is from, apologies if I mispronounced the name, but Masiek. He says, "Hi all, I'm new to credit, but if I wanted to build my credit score, why should I get BITS rather than a starter credit card?" That's another good question. I'll answer that question by saying, actually you can, if you have the ability to get approved for a starter credit card, then that is actually a good option. The thing that's perhaps a bit different about BITS is if you're just looking to build credit, you're not interested in getting into debt, you're not, you don't want to worry about accidentally getting into debt, accidentally ending up with interest and overdue and fees to pay. If literally the only thing you care about is credit and you don't really want to borrow money, then BITS is a great option. If you want some more flexibility, you want something you can actually shop with, and you're comfortable that you can pay off whatever balances you have on time, then a starter credit card is actually not a bad option as well. What we find is a lot of people that use BITS, they're actually just not able to get approved for a credit card. So it sounds easy, but actually in reality, in the UK, I think there's something like 12 million people who either because they're new to credit or because they've had a bad history in the past, they're just not able to get a starter credit card. There is one more reason. So occasionally what we'll see is for people who are new to credit, sometimes they'll be able to get a low limit bank credit card. In that case, if your limit is really low and you want a higher limit, you want to build your score faster, then BITS can help with that. So for example, you might have a £200 Capital One credit card and then you get a 720 limit BITS card. Your overall limit will increase dramatically, which should push your score up as well. But I think that there's a key point here, which is there's no single best way to build credit. There are actually many ways. So there's bank credit cards, there's us, obviously, there's energy bills and mobile bills. There are some bad ways to build credit, which are loans, for example. I think those of you who were here earlier heard my views on loans, which is they actually don't do a good job of building credit, and they signal financial need, and for those reasons, they're not great ways to build credit. The next question is from Oliver. So Oliver says, "Are you going to report to TransUnion anytime soon?" We are, Oliver. That's actually literally the thing that we're working on next. I don't have exact timing for it yet. It's a bit of a process. It's a 3-month process, and we've just gotten into that 3-month loop now. So hopefully it should be early in the new year. Great. All right. We have a few more minutes for anyone who has questions. Oh, Most welcome. For people who have joined now, I wanted to again share some news that we have from Experian, which is the launch of Experian Boost. It's a free product which can boost your credit score by up to 66 points. So the way it works is you download the Experian app, you connect your bank account, Experian reads through your bank account data, and if it finds qualifying subscriptions like your council tax payments and a couple of other subscriptions, then your score will go up. So it's actually not, it's strangely, it's actually not a credit product. When you use Experian Boost, you're not taking out credit. It's not a line of credit. It's just data sharing, which can build your credit. So if you haven't tried it now, I would definitely suggest doing that. One more sort of tip that I wanted to share with everyone is these are strange times, and I can tell you, like, as a lender, it is the business environment is quite unusual. Yeah, I am noticing, in with other lenders and also sort of in the ecosystem, credit agencies, as you might expect, no one is really in the office right now. What that means is you need to be extra careful when you're looking at your credit report. If you see something that is wrong, if you see something has been misreported, if you see a missed payment, as in you made the payment but it hasn't been reflected, don't ignore it. It is entirely possible that the lender just didn't report properly this time around because everyone is remote. So in this environment, I would just sort of be a little bit extra careful about tracking your file and seeing what's going on there. So David, I think you're talking about Experian Boost. You're with Yorkshire, Clydesdale Bank, and Virgin Money. They're not supported. I can check with them if you want. I mean, I can check with them what their plans are to add support for these. I imagine they will get around to them soon. Great. So we have 2 minutes left for anyone who wants to ask the final few questions of the year. Okay. So then I'll wrap up now. I did want to say, I know this stuff is hard, and I've myself and the rest of my colleagues, we speak to many of you one-to-one as well. So first of all, if there is a topic that you'd like to explore in a one-to-one conversation, we're here. Gigi will just type out our calendar link in the chat now, so you can book a one-to-one call. I just wanted to say, this journey can be quite frustrating and difficult sometimes. And the reason why people care about their credit score is that in this environment, it is literally the single thing that tells them whether they're progressing or not. So I understand the hopes and dreams that are pinned on credit scores. And I understand the frustrations as well with the movements. You're heading up and then sometimes you'll drop and it's not clear why. But I did want to say, if you keep doing things that literally just make sense, keep your credit card balance low, pay all your bills on time, if you have unpaid debts, keep paying them back. If you keep doing things that make sense, ultimately you will reach a point where you're happy. And I'll also tell you this, I've been through a mortgage. I got literally the best mortgage possible. I didn't have a 999 at the time. Now I have a 998. But my point is, if you do all these good things, even if your credit score isn't in the exact place you want it to be, I can assure you your efforts will not go wasted. The things that are good, that make sense anyway, paying down debt, being responsible, not getting excessive credit, these are exactly the kinds of things that mortgage providers look for as well. So, while it's good to follow your score, don't let it become the thing you obsess over, because ultimately it is the day-to-day fluctuations are ultimately out of your control. They're down to this very complex algorithm. Anyway, okay, great. Again, thank you from my side, and since we won't be seeing you again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and we're here. Anything we can help with, we're always here.
Thanks for joining, guys. Yeah, if there's anything, again, send us an email at hello@getbiz.app. We'll get to you as soon as we can. So if there's really anything, we'll help out as well.
Good.